Hello, gentlemen. We're going to get started. Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation. So welcome to our third speaker series event. Welcome special guests, including former Timon Principal Tom Sullivan and Jim Zadd, where in 2006 the Science and Pre-Engineering Center was dedicated to him. Dan Irwin is here, Ted Overdorf, Sue Overdorf, Father Greg, welcome back. Ray Cooley, who was my high school principal, he's here. Mrs. Duffy is back. But thank you to Ed Williams, class of 63, Pam Jacobs, and Maureen Denman for coordinating this event. It is an absolute pleasure for me to introduce our guest speaker. The Reverend Cory Gibson is a 2006 graduate of Bishop Timon. He was Timon Man of the Year. Reverend Gibson is a senior pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church of Buffalo. After graduating from Timon, he went on to receive his Bachelor of Science degree from Virginia University and his Master of Divinity degree from the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union. In 2015, he was named Teacher of the Year. Let's give a nice time and welcome for Reverend Cory Gibson.
Thank you so very kindly, Dr. Newton, and to all who made this speaker series possible. It's so great to finally come back home. So great to see so many familiar faces, as well as to meet some of my fellow Timon men, as well as to meet many of you. And I also look forward to meeting many of you in the day ahead. Let me also just say this, that even as I made my way here, I thought about my own time at Timon, sitting for morning assemblies, hearing a speaker. And I remember when I was asked to come to speak, I said, what time? They said 8:30. I said, it can't be 8:30 because I remember the struggle that I had sitting through some of the assemblies early in the morning, trying to just stay awake, all right, for those speakers. Let me just say, men of Timon, that you're almost at a disadvantage because in the work that I do on a weekly basis, in the speaking that I perform on a weekly basis on Sunday mornings, if there are individuals who don't seem engaged, that's when I tend to talk the longest. But for those, all right, for those who are actually engaged, even if you just nod your head or just show some type of interest, that's when I tend to speak the least. So that's the lesson for today, all right? If you just look engaged, even if you're not, we may get out of here a little bit earlier, all right? Sounds good? All right, all right. I see even some hand claps. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. All right, you're not going to get off that easy. We're not going to end it right there. But again, just good to be back here at home, back here at Timon. Let me say that there's much that has changed since I left this place some years ago. But one thing that has remained the same in the midst of everything that has changed throughout our nation, throughout this world, throughout the community here at Timon, one thing that is still the same is the Timon spirit is alive and well here on McKinley Parkway. All right. Just walking through those doors today, I felt the Timon spirit alive, fellas. I felt it alive, those who are in attendance. And there are some individuals who may not know what the Timon spirit consists of. But for those of us who do, we realize that it is grounded in pride. Pride is something that we were always taught, and I know it's something that's still being taught here at Bishop Timon St. Jude High School. I still could remember in the mornings Mr. Sullivan coming on the intercom and telling us to have pride not only in ourselves, pride in the way in which we would dress, but also have pride in everything that we did. In addition to that, when we talk about the Timon spirit, we cannot help but to talk about the level of preparation. I stand here today not because of anything that I simply did by myself, but I'm grateful for the preparation that Timon instilled in me so that I could go out and I could not only excel educationally, but that I could excel in life. And then finally, when you talk about the Timon spirit, you can't help but to talk about the level of care for others. Timon, we are men who care, not only on a local scale, but we care on a global scale as well. So again, it's great. I'm grateful to be here to share in that Timon spirit. Again, when I was asked to come today to share, I was asked to come to speak regarding something that the two other speakers have spoken about during this speaker series, which is overcoming obstacles or adversity. Now, even when I think about the other two previous speakers, when I received the invitation, I said, how did I fall into this number? I didn't play in the NFL, and I'm certainly not one who has received any medals, but I'm so grateful for Mrs. Overdorf, who reminded me that I'm the first Timon man to come and be a part of the speaker series, all right? But I certainly don't want to bore any of you today talking simply about what adversity is, because let's face it, you all know what adversity is, all right? I have to even pause here and commend each and every one of you who sit in those seats today for just being young men who are gaining an education in the midst of a global pandemic. Men who are receiving an education when one day you can be in person and the next you can receive an education virtually. So I'm not here today to talk to you about what adversity is, but I'm simply here to tell you this: without adversity, there is no advancement. Let me say it again. Without adversity, there is no advancement. Frederick Douglass, in the spirit of this month that we celebrate African American history, Frederick Douglass, that great abolitionist, that great activist, once said it this way: where there is no struggle, there is no progress. And so because of that, you all have to understand that adversity, it's a part of life. Adversity is something that we're all going to be met with. Adversity is not something that you look for. It's not something that's always welcome. Can I even tell you today that adversities are not things that you even experience once you take your first step or you say your first word. Many of you, like me, know what it's like to experience adversity when you're born into this world, when you're born into a single-parent household. Many of you understand what adversity means when you're born on what some people consider the wrong side of the tracks, growing up on the east side of Buffalo. Some would suggest that that's an adversity. Some would suggest that adversity is having people, friends who are close to you, family members who are close to you, lose their lives. Perhaps you're even like me, who have lost a parent right before your very eyes, as I watched as my father passed away. That, for some, is adversity. For some, adversity is serving as the only African American student in your graduating class. And again, graduating not in 1960, but graduating in 2006. Some would suggest that those things are a part of adversity, and you all have your own examples. But let me tell you this: without adversity, you also cannot receive grit. You also cannot display grit. And if there's one thing that Timon men have, we have grit. We have fight. Being a part of the Timon community didn't always symbolize the largest community, but it symbolized a brotherhood that was like no other. It symbolized a brotherhood that was filled with fight. And guess what? You cannot have a future if you're not willing to fight, if you're not willing to show some type of grit. And so what were those things, if you were to ask? Because I can hear someone asking today, what were the things in your life, Cory, what were those things in your life that helped you to overcome the adversity, the challenges, the obstacles that you faced? Because I am a Baptist minister, I do have three things to share with you, and then I will take my seat. The first thing I believe that we all have to possess in order to make it through those moments of adversity is an understanding of investments. an understanding of investments. I'm not talking about simply financial investments. I'm not talking about financial investments that we perhaps even learned in your economics class. But I'm talking about those meaningful deposits of others. I'm talking about those investments whereby people see something in you, and as a result, they're not afraid to tell you, I believe in you. I'm grateful for those investments that came before me that helped me to understand that whatever challenges arose in my life, that I could meet them heads on. When I sat where you are sitting right now, I remembered that there were Timon men who came before me who helped to pave the way. I understood, even as a John R. Oshai scholar, and I believe that there are some John R. Oshai scholars here today, I understood that there is an investment that is placed into this education that we receive. That Mr. John R. Oshai and those who make up that foundation decided to put this into place so that we would not have to worry about the financial hardships that oftentimes are associated with achieving a quality education such as the one we receive at Bishop Timon. I understood that there was an investment coming from this woman in the front row who serves as my mother, and my aunts who are even here today, and even my classmates who wanted to ensure that I had a better life. I say this to you so that you all can understand that there's someone making an investment in you. It may not serve as a financial investment, but it may be a kind word. It may be the foundation that persons have tried to set before you so that you could grow to be the men that you are. Understand those investments, because when challenges come your way, thinking about those investments will help you to understand that you have a responsibility to never give up, but to display that grit and to keep on going. But not only did I understand investments, I also was able to move forward and to conquer the adversities that came my way, because I was able to find my identity. I was able to find my identity. Now more than ever, it's important that you not only find your identity as young men, but it is important that you embrace who you are, that you are never ashamed of who you are. No matter what your shortcomings may be, no matter what frailties you may have, no matter what difficulties you've experienced in life, all of those things go into making you the man that you will be. When I think about identity, I think about an instance when I was a senior here at Bishop Timon. Now I need some participation here, and I'm going to really step aside and really talk to the students at this point. Does the name James St. Patrick ring a bell to anyone? If it does, just raise your hand. How about the name Tyreek St. Patrick? Do I have any Braden Westons? Those adults who don't know, don't go back and watch. But understand this. The co-executive producer of this series, Power, that those characters appear in, the co-executive producer who also sings the theme song, who also starred in a number of the early series, a man by the name of Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. If you don't know who that is, if you watched the Super Bowl this past Sunday, he was the gentleman who performed at the halftime show Upside Down. But it was during my senior year that Mr. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson was at the peak of his musical career. And it was during that time that he had a movie that came out that loosely depicted his life, a movie that was entitled Get Rich or Die Trying. I wasn't personally interested in seeing the film, but few of my classmates wanted to see it. And so we went off to the McKinley Mall and we saw the movie, and after seeing the movie, I anticipated coming back home. I anticipated standing on the bus stop that, Mr. Zad, I remember you would see me on so many afternoons. That same bus stop, Miss Overdorf, that you oftentimes had questions in terms of how it was taking the 19B to come to school every morning. But as I prepared to take the bus home, my good friend Jeff Conroy said, no, I'll get you home. Because that's what we do as Timon brothers. We look out for one another. And he drove me home, and I must admit that Jeff Conroy was a very interesting friend. We still are in contact to this day as we share the same birthday, but Jeff Conroy always had a personality about him, always had a tough persona about him. But it was something about driving to the east side of Buffalo that when we made it there that night, and I took my book bag out of the hatch of his vehicle, that SUV, I promise you that before the back of the hatch could close, Mr. Conroy was already gone. But there was one thing about that moment, two things I should say, that really helped me to understand identity. Number one, he never made fun of where I came from. And he also understood that the separation between where he lived here in South Buffalo and where I lived on the east side of Buffalo, that separation was extremely small because we were connected not only as Timon men, but we were connected as human beings. Understand your identity, embrace your identity, find your identity. But then finally, if you want to know how I overcame the adversities of my life, not only did I understand investments, not only did I find my identity, but finally, I understood that as a Timon man, as a man, I had a responsibility to make an impact. That I had a responsibility to overcome the adversities of my life because I realized that there were individuals who were not only watching and waiting for me to overcome those hurdles, but individuals who would sit down, such as the way you are today, to hear the story of how I overcame. And that too is the responsibility that you all have, to make an impact, to make a difference, to serve as change agents. Again, it's hard to believe, but when I sat where you all are, there wasn't anything known as TikTok or Instagram or even Facebook for that matter. We had MySpace. And there was no such thing as an influencer. But now we hear that word, influencer. One who has the ability to enact change and to create an influence. You all have a responsibility as Timon men. You have a responsibility to create impact. You have a responsibility to make a difference in the life of someone else. Make a difference so that someone else can hear your story, so that you can stand and you can tell the story of individuals who, again, made an impact in your life. Individuals like a Mr. Joyce, individuals like a Mr. Struzik, individuals like a Mr. Sullivan, individuals like a Mr. Overdorf, and countless others. If you're going to overcome the adversities of your life, understand the investments, find your identity, but then make an impact. Thank you. I believe, Dr. Newton, you said that there would be a question and answer period? Yes, sir. Do I feel a calling to do church work? If I did not have a calling or feel a sense of calling to do church work, I'm not sure if I would engage in church work. I have certainly learned, even as I served as a teacher, Dr. Newton, that in life you really have to find what your calling is, and you have to walk in it. There's a phrase that says that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I've been called to serve as a minister of the gospel, as one who, again, makes impact in the lives of others. And so, yes, I do feel a great sense of calling.
Thank you. What was your major obstacle that you faced in becoming a minister?
Major obstacle I faced in becoming a minister. For me, discerning and understanding what the call consisted of. Understanding that my role as a minister went beyond the time that I stand behind a lectern on Sunday mornings, but really starting to understand that what I do happens on a daily basis.
Thank you. Other questions from the floor?
I believe my principal, Mr. Sullivan, had something. Very, very good question. As it relates to Calvary and my work there, it's very funny because the Calvary Baptist Church, where I serve as the senior pastor, is the same church that I was a part of when I was a Timon man. It's the church that I was baptized in. It was the church that I received my license to preach. And so to come back after going away to Virginia and living there for nearly 15 years, coming back with my wife and serving as pastor, some of the work that we do is to really ensure that we are shaping the community around us, those persons who live in the 14211 zip code, as well as to ensure that we're making a global impact. Some of the ministries that we have include our men and women's ministry, our youth and young adult children's ministry, ministries that even speak to, again, meeting the needs of not only community with our food pantry ministry that provides weekly services to those persons in need of food, but also ensuring that we are giving financially to institutions as well as individuals in need. So when we talk about the ministries at Calvary, again, all of those groups that are created to, again, help to make a difference in the lives of others. Did I answer your question? All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Why did I choose Bishop Timon High School? Very good question. So my grammar school experience took place at St. Stanislaus off of Fillmore, which is now closed. And I attended St. Stanislaus from kindergarten until 8th grade. Again, serving there as a Bison Fund recipient. And after my time there was over, I wanted to again continue to receive a faith-based quality education. And so in addition to Bishop Timon, there was another school that really doesn't matter at this time for me to mention, all right, that was on the radar. But what really solidified Bishop Timon is when I shadowed here as an 8th grader, just the family bond that Timon seemed to possess, the close-knit community that Timon, again, offered. And again, the sense of pride that everyone, again, seemed to possess as they walked through the halls. Yes, sir.
Other questions?
My role model growing up, she's sitting in the front row, my mother. And again, I say that not because she's simply sitting here, but I say that because of the level of sacrifice that she made in order for me, again, to have the opportunities afforded to me. My favorite time in memory? Wow. That I can talk about, exactly. There were a number of time and memories. My favorite time in memory, I would have to say, wow, favorite time in memory. Senior prom. Senior prom was a good day. Senior prom was a good day because, again, I realized that the end of my time and career was coming to an end, and understanding that the individuals whom I even shared a class with, my classmates, that again, that was going to serve as one of the last times that we would all be together. So for the sake of this platform, I'll say senior prom. I'll check in with you afterward to maybe share a few others. Ms. Overdorf. Football experience. Well, I was an All-American here, and I was recruited by Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I am completely lying. I like to say that I was on the football team. As I walked in today, I saw Mr. Overdorf, who even said, you played with my son, and I said, well, I don't know if the word played was in order. But again, my football experience here was great, not because I was a standout. As a matter of fact, here at Timon, that was my first time actually playing organized football. And so thoroughly enjoyed the experience and really just enjoyed the camaraderie of the team and just the discipline that I even gained by being a part of the team. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes. To this day, I still don't know. No. The Man of the Year award was something that wasn't on my radar. But as I sat on this floor for graduation, all of the diplomas were received after being conferred, and a few other awards were presented. And the final award was the Man of the Year award. And there was a lot of talk about the Man of the Year award and what it represented as a Timon man. And to understand that it was and it is an award that is not only voted upon by your peers and your classmates, but also the faculty and staff. And so serving as a Man of the Year recipient was a great honor because, as I mentioned before, it helped me to understand that there were people who saw something in me. Yeah.
Thank you once again. On behalf of the sponsors, myself, Pam, and Maureen Dedman, we have a little gift here for you, but we'd like to have Sue Overdorf come up, please. Sue, could you, our way of saying thank you.
Thank you, Cory. Would you like to say something nice about Cory? Yeah.
Yes. I had the privilege of teaching Cory, and you know, as a teacher, there are always some students that you never forget. Cory was one of them. Because of that bus that he took, and he took it late, he had to wait for it, the other students were gone, and sometimes I would be late in my classroom, and Cory would come, and we would have conversations. And I remember in particular, may I tell that story, Cory?
Yeah, I'll hold your gift for you so you
Thank
can
you.
really talk.
The story that really cemented things for me to realize all that Cory went through to come here to Timon as the only student of color in his senior year. And I've been known to ask questions rather, I'm not shy about asking questions. So one day I said, Cory, what is it like to be the only student of color coming to Timon? And he said the most difficult part was waiting for the bus. Because, you know, when you come to Timon, you are, as he said, a man who takes pride in his appearance. So you wear a shirt and a tie, and you wear slacks, and you dress nicely because when you have pride in yourself, you feel better about yourself. So Cory, you know, he certainly liked that dress code, but sometimes he was the object of ridicule as he stood at the bus stop because he went to a school where you had to wear a shirt and a tie, and did you feel that you're better than somebody else, you're better than us? So because of that kind of adversity, Cory took to putting his tie in his book bag and, right, Cory? Not to show that he was a standout in looking any different from the students in his neighborhood. It's a small thing, but to me, it spoke volumes of the day-to-day life that Cory, he had to overcome many things to come to Timon. But once he walked through the door, then he was all Timon. And he still is, and I love, Cory, that you still have wonderful friends who are Timon.
This is so lucky.
and I feel very proud to call him friend today. So, with that, Timon, 75th year. There we go. Timon, he wears with pride. Timon, 75 years.
Thank you.
Corey, it's going to be wearing it every year. And I think this reminds me of Corey playing football. See, he played with my...
I was on the team.
This reminds me of that. So you wear this around the neighborhood.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Corey,
you.
for being with
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Gentlemen, nice round of applause for Reverend Cory Gibson. 2006 Timon Man of the Year.
Thank you.
We were sitting up here, and we're like, this is probably one of the best times.
Wow.
Because even Steve and I even said, just your ability to really control a room was amazing.
Wow. Thank
So,
you.
yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Thank you.
I think we should be able to good to go. All right, so we are live. We have Reverend Cory Graham beside me. I'm Sean Glinsky, and we're just going to ask him a few questions here. So, Cory, for the first one, can most ministers earn a living from that alone, or is a second job necessary?
So it all depends on the context.
Okay.
It depends on the context. The average church size nationwide is roughly 100.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to pastor a congregation of a little over 400, and
Okay.
so it all depends on the context. But what I am discovering is that most ministers are now moving to a place where they are teaching and serving
Yeah.
as professors and what have you. So because we live by the mantra that all that we have need of, God will provide, you can make a living, if you will.
Fair enough. When it comes to running your church, what are some of your biggest obstacles?
Biggest obstacles at this particular point, galvanizing support.
Okay.
Galvanizing support is one of the areas that is a hurdle to get over, but I'm learning in year number 4 that the support does come.
Okay. How big typically is your weekly congregation?
Weekly congregation, well, that has dwindled some, obviously,
Yeah.
post-pandemic. But prior to the pandemic, we would see roughly 200 on a Sunday or so. And again, now it fluctuates.
Yeah.
So we see between maybe 80 to 130 or so.
Even still, that's amazing to see how many people are still willing to follow the church through this pandemic.
Absolutely.
In 2024, here comes presidential Cory Gibson. How do you address our country's racial and political divide?
Wow. Very great question.
Yeah.
Because, again, we know that based upon just the nature of individuals, hatred, unfortunately will exist, even in 2024.
Exactly.
But for me, to combat that, I certainly would create more programs and initiatives for persons to not only learn about one another and culturally and what have you, but to also have an opportunity to embrace some of those cultural differences. So setting up more programs and initiatives that speak to meeting the needs of people, understanding one another.
Yeah, and even here at Timon, you see a well-blended group of people,
Absolutely.
and we all really learn about each other and care about each other and things like that.
Absolutely.
Now for a serious question. You don't have to answer if you're uncomfortable.
Okay.
Should the NFL change its overtime rules?
Is the sky blue? Is the sky blue?
Yeah.
Listen, if Josh leads that campaign, I'm down with it 100%.
Yep. You're not that old, but looking back at your time here, wish you could change anything in your life in general, actually.
Absolutely not. I'm grateful for my journey, grateful for the challenges that I've had to face, grateful for even those moments of, again, setbacks. So, at this particular point, I wouldn't take anything for the journey.
Yeah. Where do you see your career heading over the next 10 years?
Next 10 years, prayerfully, continuing to make an impact.
Yeah.
Continuing to make an impact, perhaps even having initiatives associated with the congregation, with the ministry, that speaks really to combating some of the needs that we will uncover after this pandemic. Many needs have risen since this time, and so within 10 years, really intentionally establishing ministry whereby we can address those needs and the effects of what we've experienced over the course of these last 2 years.
Just kind of a personal question here.
Sure.
With the pandemic, do you believe that more people are turning more or less so towards God in these times? Definitely, my mom being a nurse, she's held hands of people on their deathbed, and so many people are just then turning to God. Do you see more people now turning towards God, especially during the pandemic and times like this?
Without question. Certainly, because prior to the pandemic, there was a mass exodus within the context of the church, be it within Catholicism, be it within the Baptist context, Protestant. There was a mass exodus. And now that people have not only lived through this time, but have survived much of what has taken place, I think that there are more people who are depending upon their faith to help not only continue to carry them through, but they're seeing the value of what it means to be a part of a faith community.
Okay. Yeah, understandable. And that's why I just wanted to ask that because I know, like I said, from personal experiences, I've seen more and more people now turning towards the church and really putting their trust in God, which I think is fantastic as a holy man ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So back to the serious questions. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all times. Now, I may receive some scrutiny for this because I am a man of the cloth, if you will, but my favorite movie of all time, Goodfellas. Goodfellas.
That's a good one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
What is your go-to fast food / takeout place?
Go-to fast food / takeout. Because I spent so much time in Virginia, I'm a fan of Chick-fil-A when it comes to fast food. But if I have just a go-to spot that I, can just eat from almost daily, I mean, Bocce's.
Yeah.
I'm a Bocce's guy.
And then finally, what do you believe is the value in a faith-based education like Timon?
Faith-based education, I believe it's certainly valuable. When I, again, just look at individuals like yourself, it helps you to develop, again, a sense of pride in yourself. It helps you to understand that what you do is bigger than you, that you are indeed helping not only people around you, people in your immediate vicinity, but you're also helping to make a difference in generations to come. Because you understand the level of sacrifice that was made by Jesus Christ. And you understand that if a sacrifice was made of that magnitude on the cross, that certainly the sacrifices that we're asked to make, they don't pale in comparison.
All right, so that was our final question. I just want to point out that this was a tremendous experience, I do believe, for all of us here.
Thank you.
I mean, you're one of the people that really solely we can say, can change the world just by your teachings and even listening to your talk. So it was a pleasure for you to come back to Timon, and these are the people that Timon can produce. I mean, Reverend Cory Graham.
Thank you.
What a guy.
Thank you. And thank you again for all that you continue to do, and as you even pursue your next chapter and you matriculate through college, best of luck.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
For Sean Glinsky, this is Reverend Cory Graham. For Guys in the Booth, we'll send it back to you.